you always had that sense of humour, that no filter approach, or is that something you've recognised over time to let yourself be?
No, I was always the one in the friendship group who would be like, have you ever been halfway through a poo and thought, this is what anal feels like? And my friends are just sat there eating chow mein going, yes, hey again. You either be authentically you or you get judged anyway being someone you're not.
We don't have to go into too much depth if you don't want to.
Oh no, I'm fine talking about Dead Mum Club. It's fine.
Oh God, is that what we call it? Shit. That's how I break the ice.
If you wait for somebody else to say no first, you are going to get a hell of a lot further than if you say no to yourself. See, I'd have to disagree with you.
She's sitting forward.
I would. No, I know. I'm
Move the camera. We're gonna have a fight.
The baby
We're having
bump.
a fight.
I'd have to disagree with you.
Yeah, you win. You're pregnant. I'll let you be right. She's right. She's right. I'm talking shit. Welcome back, everybody, to the Rich in Success podcast, the show that brings you motivation, education, and inspiration on how you can live a happier, a healthier, more successful, and more fulfilling life. This week's guest is Megan Parkinson. She's an actress that has been featured in lead roles on Game of Thrones and Ackley Bridge, and is currently working on a brand new drama that will come out in the new year. I found this conversation genuinely hilarious and heartbreaking all in one. Megan just came in here with such a vibrant, authentic energy. She was so bubbly, so funny, and what I will say as well is if you're easily offended, if you don't like crude sense of humour, then this episode is probably not for you. She literally had me almost in tears laughing, but at the same time, she's had a truly traumatic, heartbreaking 12 months. So I think the way in which she's handled that and the way she continues to conduct herself in spite of a lot of adversity and a lot of difficulties over the journey with both what she's been through and her mental health is truly inspiring. And it's certainly an episode that I will not forget. So I hope you find this a valuable listen. As always, thank you so much for being here. Please do me a favour. You know, my mission is to help more people on a mass scale to live a happier, healthier, more successful life. And I cannot do this alone. So if you are finding this podcast to be a great listen, if you think it's something that more people need to hear, I'd massively appreciate it if you can help me to help others by subscribing, downloading, rating and reviewing, and most importantly, sharing this podcast with someone you think needs to listen. Without further ado, please enjoy episode 151 of the Rich in Success podcast. This is Managing Your Mental Health with Game of Thrones actress Megan Parkinson. And just before we dive straight into today's Rich in Success podcast episode, I wanted to share with you what becoming a Rich in Success member could actually do for your life. Now, if you're somebody that is at a point where you're serious about positive change, whether that be in your health, your well-being, your mindset, your business, your career, your finances, or your relationships, the Rich in Success membership is perfect for you. For just £39 a month, you get access to over 40 training videos where I'll be taking you through everything from goal setting, we'll be looking at high performance habits, we'll be looking at different changes you can make to your mindset and your attitude that are going to be able to propel you to have more success in every single area of your life. And in addition to these training videos, every month you will get a live group coaching call with me where you can ask me any questions about the content or about things that you're going through in your life so that I can help you personally as your coach. And as well as that, there will be exclusive bonus interviews with experts in a variety of fields. I'm bringing together the best minds, the best experts from all around the world to give you access to the very best content to help you move forward in your life. All this for just £39 a month, reoccurring subscription that you can cancel at any time. To become a Rich in Success member today, please click the link below or head on over to richinsuccess.com where you can sign up there, and I will look forward to seeing you in the exclusive members area very soon. How old was you when you did Game of Thrones?
1920.
And that was kind of your main first
Oh
job.
my God, no, if you watch Game of Thrones and you sneeze, you miss me.
No, but you was in it.
But I was in it, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's somewhat of an achievement.
Yeah.
I showed up.
And you can have a long sneeze. Like.
Yeah. Game of Thrones, yeah, so I was 18, 19.
Yeah.
But it was one of those jobs where, like, especially season 7, it was my third ever job. So I'd done Holby City, just for a one-off episode, playing a goth with a hernia. And then I did To Walk Invisible, which was like...
with a hernia.
Yeah. And these boots that were like thigh-high platform took like 30 minutes to lace up. So I just had to sit there with these ridiculous shoes on. And then we did To Walk Invisible, which was Sally Wainwright, who does like Happy Valley and stuff like that.
Was I in one of those? I used to be a bit of an actor.
Yes.
I did a Sally Wainwright, Unforgiven it was called.
All right.
With Saran Jones.
Yeah, and then Jimmy did Happy Valley, so we've got triple threat.
We are the Sally Wainwright team.
Yeah, she loves a good Northern
Are you recording?
actor.
Have we actually? Is this it? Are we in? I don't even know.
I'm starting.
You were looking like he looks like when the episode's going really well, and I got that look, that glint in his eye.
Well, I thought that was a nice little bit, but yeah.
Yeah.
Officially starting, good.
Yeah.
Let's rock and roll.
Okay.
And then it was Game of Thrones, so it was my third job, but it was like flying over to Belfast. It was, stay at the most bombed hotel in Ireland, and you're like, that's the information you want. And then it was great. It was one of those. It was literally once in a lifetime job. There's never going to be anything that'll match it.
Did you always think, like, how old was you when you started acting? Was you pretty young?
So I moved to London when I was 18, and I got a by accident, because I'd auditioned for the National Youth Theatre Rep Company, which are like a cast of 13 kids, and there's thousands and thousands of kids apply every year, and I was auditioning for the summer courses, and they were like, do you want to also audition for the Rep Company? And I was like, yeah, whatever that is, fine. And 4 rounds later, I kept being called back, and I was like, maybe this is like their big show. Like, didn't know anything about it. It'd been running for maybe 3-4 years.
Yeah.
But it was still really established, especially in the industry, for like agents to find new clients and stuff. And then I got a placement on the course, which is like a 9-month training program, completely free, with like 3 months on the West End doing 3 different shows.
Okay.
And they invite all these agents and casting directors and stuff. And I got onto this course, and they were like, okay, so you need to move down to London. And I was like, what? I was like, I had no idea what it was.
Yeah.
And
you were
I
just going along with it.
Just going along with it. 4 rounds of auditions. One of them was like on a West End stage, and the last round was in front of the casting director of the National and a big executive producer who ended up being my mentor for like 3-4 years after.
Okay.
But I was the youngest person ever to get on the course. I was only 18. And then 9 months later, after doing 3 shows on the West End, I got my agent. And my agent sent me for like a practice audition with a really big casting director who works with Nina Gold, who did Game of Thrones and stuff, called Robert Stern. And I auditioned for Robert Stern to do a play at the Crucible with Jack O'Connell. It was called The Nap. It was about snooker, and it was a comedy. So I went for this audition and ended up getting down to like the last 2 or 3, meeting the director, who was Richard Wilson. And all of a sudden my agent was like, you're not supposed to actually get the job. Like this was like a practice.
This is your practice run. Yeah.
So I got signed by them. And really amazing feedback from these auditions. So 6 months of just auditioning, meeting casting directors, meeting the industry. And then I got my first job on Holby City, and it just went from there. So
Wow.
I'd started at 18, but kind of got my first job at 19 and a half.
So I love that we've both been in a Sally Wainwright drama.
Yeah.
That was my last job that I ever did, like 10 years ago. So that was the end of my career. And my experience of the National Youth Theatre is I did the summer course when I was 17.
Yeah.
It's the most alcohol I've ever drank in 2
Yeah.
weeks. That's all I got out of it.
Yeah.
I had the fucking best
See,
time
whereas
ever.
our little course, we were group 13. I still have two of my closest friends where I met on that
From that.
course. And one of them's on bloody Strictly at the minute. Reece Stevenson, who's a CBBC presenter now.
Yeah.
And we just did this little summer
That
course.
2
And
weeks.
yeah, now he's on
Well, I
fucking
remember
Strictly.
at the end of that 2 weeks, this is going to sound like really like, pathetic, but it's true. I remember crying on the last day
Yeah.
because I felt like I'd been there 2 years.
Yeah.
Like the bonds you got in
Yeah.
that 2 weeks.
And the material, like if you do any kind of comedy writing or anything like that, the variety of people you meet on those courses
Completely.
are insane.
Yeah.
Like there is one girl who was in the dorm next to me from Somerset, and I still have to, like, she is my living anecdotes. If I'm at a party and the conversation's a bit stale,
She comes
her
out.
experience of like getting in the kitchen cupboard, start naked and trying to be a saucepan are literally where I
Hang on,
have
why
to
kind of
pull it through.
Why did she have to be naked to be a saucepan?
So she'd had an entire bottle of cider. Like,
Oh, is that the only reason?
she'd had an entire bottle of cider. Everybody else had gone out into Greenwich to go have karaoke.
Yeah.
But I'd stayed in with this lass.
Because you
and
just knew.
I just knew. Well, when I met her, the first thing she ever said to me was, just so you know, I sleepwalk. And I was like, that's absolutely fine. She's like, yeah, but I sleep naked. And I was like, I'll lock my door. It's fine. You know, and then, I just was lying in bed reading a book, and I just heard this crash bang and a wallop, and all the saucepans had been cleared out of this cabinet. And I was like, what are you doing? And she was like, I'm trying to be a saucepan. What does it look like? And she was just in this corner cabinet of the kitchen, just
So
stark
this wasn't
naked.
sleepwalking. This
No,
was
she
intentional,
was
conscious.
pissed as a fart.
Okay.
And
she
then
knew what she was doing.
I was like, I think we need to get you in bed. She's like, I think I need to do Baileys. So I was like, you do you, babe. Yeah. Yeah. It is the most drunk I've ever been in my life.
Also, when you
NYT.
do an impression of anybody, do you always have to do the accent?
Always.
That's something for me. I
Always.
can't do any accents. But if you do an impression,
She's the only reason why I have somewhat of a Somerset accent
yeah.
is because it was so iconic.
I think that's great. I think you got everything you needed out of that 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So that went on to the 9 months, and then the jobs started coming in. Where was your head at that time? Because I know the industry, there's kind of a lot of expectation, a lot of pressure to get work.
Yeah.
Then when you're starting to get known, there's pressure to keep
Continue
it up
to get
and
work.
Yeah. So how's that journey been for you?
I mean, the 9-month training program, because I was the youngest, because it was a really intense course.
Yeah.
I did, and I'd gone from living in a big family house with 3 siblings and my parents and a dog to a tiny little studio flat on my own.
Right. Okay.
I was really struggling with loneliness, really struggling with kind of London being so overwhelming. Going from a Yorkshire village in the middle of nowhere to London and the accessibility, and if you want to go to a gig or a museum or whatever, it's
just
there.
all there.
Yeah.
You can
So
walk.
it was very overwhelming. The tube is quite a scary thing when you're just not even used to getting Northern Train line. So it was struggling with that kind of overwhelming sense, not just from the industry, but from because the industry is as big as it is, it's also very, very tiny. You can meet the same casting director over and over and over again and still be like, oh, it's good to see you again. And they're like, because they see so many people, but from their side of the industry, it's tiny. So it was kind of very overwhelming to be going to these big auditions, meeting casting directors like Robert Stern, who does Game of Thrones with Nina Gold, going over to Nina Gold's house, which is this like 5-floor ridiculous mansion, and it's stunning. And you're doing basically a self-tape in her attic with her assistant's assistant. So yeah, it was really, really overwhelming, and going for these big jobs and thinking, oh God, this could be it. There's so many jobs that I could sit here and gone, if I'd got that job, my life would have gone a completely different trajectory. But it's so much pressure. So much pressure. And I think unless this is the job that you really, really want to do and want to do with everything that you have, don't do it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
It can't just be, I kind of like that idea. I
Yeah,
kind of
I'd
like
love to be an
acting.
actor because I'd love to act. No, if you like being rejected
Yeah, yeah.
every single day of your life,
Yeah.
be an actor.
And being judged.
Yeah,
and
being
yeah,
judged, being told what to do, how to do it.
how to look.
Yeah, how to look, what you can and can't say. You know,
Mm.
there's so much more to being actually someone in the public eye or
Yeah.
someone, you know, who's an actor than just getting up in front of a camera and acting.
So when you say like you was feeling really lonely, how
Yeah.
did you deal with that?
I didn't.
Really?
I didn't for a very long time. So after I finished this 9-month course, I got into a very odd relationship with a bloke who was a lot older than me. He was 11 years older, so I was 18. He was 31. And he did a lot of marijuana. And he'd been smoking weed for like 10 years. So the secondhand smoke that I was getting just in this little flat that we shared
Yeah.
was actually making me stoned, even though I don't participate. And so I don't actually remember a lot of those 2 years that I was in that relationship, because I remember having severe paranoia. I remember being really depressed and trying to do yoga, trying to eat healthy, trying to go to these food markets and get organic food to see if that would help. No, the problem was I was getting, really, really strong secondhand weed. So once I was out of that relationship, my memory kind of gets a little bit clearer about where my life went.
But while you was with him, you were still getting the jobs and working.
Yeah, but I don't remember a lot of it. I remembered the jobs because I was out of that flat, but that flat and that lifestyle, not a clue. So I got the first season of season 7 of Game of Thrones while I was in that relationship. And being in Belfast and having this amazing experience did kind of have a little wake-up call of what was going on back at home wasn't normal.
Because you took yourself out of that environment and you could see it a little bit more rationally.
I think if it had been any other job that wasn't as an extremity, that wasn't you walk into work and there's Peter Dinklage and Kit Harington and they're having banter and it's amazing. And, one of my closest friends is Bella Ramsey, who's now in Canada filming The Last of Us for Amazon, and I made incredible friendships there. If it hadn't have been that extreme, I don't think I would have realised how bad at home was. But as soon as I was out of that relationship, I moved out of London. I was back up north, back with my parents, and for a couple of months, I was doing really, really well, really well. But yeah, it was when you're in the wrong kind of relationship, the days literally just disappear from you. They vanish, and you don't remember any of them.
I think it's one of those things when you're on the outside looking in, you see the logic.
Yeah.
But when it's your reality and your day-to-day life, you sometimes don't realise when things are just happening.
Yeah.
And before you know it, it's been 6 months, it's been a year.
It's been a year, it's been 2 years, and, I, especially for the last 6 months that we were together, I started developing really, really bad agoraphobic tendencies, partly because of the anxiety, partly because of the paranoia. But it was mainly this choice of, if I go outside, I have no control of what happens to me.
Yeah.
It's not I'm scared of leaving my front door. It's here I can make decisions on how I feel, what I eat, who comes into contact with me.
So you've got
As soon as
control.
I step outside, I have no control.
Yeah.
And because I felt like I had no control in my life anyway, with my career, because I couldn't make decisions on what jobs I get or what jobs I go for, and then because of my relationship, I wasn't making any decisions on whether we move out, he stopped smoking or anything like that. It was very much a case of the only thing I have in control of my life is my current location. So if I stay inside, then I'm in control of that. As soon as I step outside, anything can happen. So as soon as that started to kick in, my mum, bless her heart, she realised I was really poorly mentally. So she got on a train and came and got me. and literally sat on a train with me back up north. And I spent 3 weeks at home because she was like, you just need to recover, basically, and get a clear head and get all of this out of your system. Because I was very hesitant on what I did. You know, everyone filters what they do and don't tell their family about their relationships and stuff. So she kind of saw between the lines and was like, she's not healthy, she's not well, get her up. So that was kind of leading up to why I got out of the relationship and how.
So going home then, what was that process to getting you mentally stronger? Like, what did you go through? What did you have to do?
The main thing I find, especially with my agoraphobic tendencies, which I still have, even being in the best place I've ever been in my entire life, is treating that anxiety and that voice as a separate voice that's still part of you, treating it mainly like a scared child. Because for me, that voice was never trying to make me scared or make me angry. It was trying to protect me.
It's like looking at the intention behind.
Massively. And actually, the thing you do with a scared child who's going, no, I don't think you should go outside, you don't ignore it. You don't go, oh, you're being ridiculous, you're being irrational, all of that.
You listen to it.
You listen to it. You understand it. You sit with it and you go, right, I get where you're coming from, but we're going to do this together and we're going to be fine. And I think actually welcoming my anxiety and welcoming my agoraphobia made me so much healthier, because if I'm in the middle of big Tesco's and I'm having an anxiety attack, the last thing I'm going to want to do is drop my shopping basket, get out, get in my car, get home, all of that. I'm just going to sit on the floor, let it happen, because it's actually going to cause less trauma for me and less issues for me than if I get in my car and I crash it. So I found that actually just letting it sweep over me, letting it happen, was healthier than ignoring it, avoiding it,
so
pushing
glad you
it
said
down.
That. It's something I talk about a lot with all emotion. I think when we look at what we perceive as like negative emotion, people generally, they try and avoid it. They try and fight it, or they get frustrated at it. And what they do is they attach more negative emotions.
Or they try and fix it.
To it. Yeah. Change it.
Yeah.
Rather than accept it, embrace it, understand it. Why am I feeling this way? What's the trigger? Where does it come from? And then I think the analogy you said there about it being like a
scared little child.
Yeah. You then sort of step by step try and help them move forward.
Yeah, and grow. You know, that's the whole thing of, you know, if you find a scared adult who's like, I'm not going outside, you think, come on, you need to be a bit grown. You know, it's that chastising thing. It's no, you need to get over this. You need to work from this. You're older than, you know, you're old enough to know better.
You should know better.
Whereas if it's a scared little child, which your anxiety and your depression, agoraphobia is, you know, it's a comfort thing. Every single mental health, you know, disorder that I've had or you know, feel I may have had, or, you know, whatever, is if I've always seen it as a scared little child, it's a comfort thing. It just wants to be and it wants to be loved, and it wants to be it wants to be okay, you know. So it's just trying to make, and also it removes it from myself so that I'm not embarrassed by it. You know, I could sit here and say I'm quite embarrassed that I had really bad depression and, you know, my anxiety and everything. You know, I've had, you know, the shits and projectile vomiting at Turnpike Lane Station because of my agoraphobia. You know, but actually that was a very traumatic experience for me, because I had an anxiety attack that caused me to literally explode from every orifice I have. But it was an experience where, do you know what? I was that terrified and my body went into fight or flight. And when you fly, you just explode. So for me, it was a very base instinct experience that I've thankfully never had since, but an experience nonetheless, and one that I know that if I saw somebody else in a similar situation, there's no embarrassment there. It is purely, this is actually as human and as basic human and as caveman as it gets.
Wow. And you get that. Where do you think it stems from? Like, how young was you when you, like, your earliest memories of anxiety and these kind of things?
I think I was a very desperate kid, and desperate's the right word for it, because I was so desperate to be loved, to be acknowledged, to be liked. You know, it was a very interesting generation that I was a part of, where phones were a new thing, internet was a new thing, Facebook was new, we were still doing MSN. So your social life, unlike with my elder siblings, wasn't just at school.
Yeah.
It was at home as well.
Yeah.
So you were getting Facebook messages at home, you were getting your private life infiltrated, you know, by your peers. And I think that desperation to be liked made me very volatile. It made me very kind of just like me. I will say whatever you want me to say to be liked. You know, there's such a toxic environment, especially with young teens, to have sexual experiences, to, you know, have kissed a boy, done things, been drunk, had a cigarette at some point. And my generation, it was so strong, it was so vivid. So when I was kind of 13, 14, and my friends were like, she hasn't even been with a boy yet, I'd be like, oh no, I have. It was at summer camp. You've never met him. You know, and you know, and it's
called Peter.
Yeah. You know, and then this Peter character they find on Facebook, and it all leaks, and the lie comes out, and you know, that shit did happen to me.
The desperation though, because I know you're saying it's like a generational thing, and how old are you? 25?
25.
So I'm 30, so I remember that, you know, a similar thing where phones were first coming out, and MSN, all that kind of thing. But it obviously everybody's affected differently. Where do you think the desperation to be liked came from? Was it just that generation, or was it something deeper?
No, I think it came from, definitely it came from, I think, being one of 4 kids.
Fighting for the attention.
Being the drama queen.
Yeah.
Being the actress, you know. But
are any of the other kids, like your siblings, into performing?
No, my brother drives a van. My sister, incredible.
Does he get paid for that driving the van?
Yeah, he does.
Just
he does. He drives a van.
His van.
My eldest sister is an incredible mum of 2 kids, and she does dog grooming and picking at Morrison's.
Okay.
And then my other sister is a primary school teacher.
Okay. So you
So-
both varied.
Yeah, it's very, very,
Interesting.
very. And then there's me, who's the actress.
Yeah.
You know, but my whole family, my entire family are doctors, teachers, engineers, very, very successful in all of their fields.
So it's kind of like intellect style career paths.
Yeah, whereas one of my elder generation family members, shan't drop names, not that they'll ever see this because they don't even know how their email works, but said to me acting was just prostitution by another name.
Oh.
So,
Cheers for that.
you know, I kind of felt like a giraffe in a duck pond when it came to my family. You know, it wasn't just a little fish in a big pond. Or it was just the wrong species.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that kind of desperation to be liked came for the fact that I didn't recognize myself in anybody that I was around at school or at home. So that kind of desperation to fit in, to be like everybody else, to have these experiences, be it sexual or not or whatever, you know, and that's only got worse, especially with the younger generations now. This expectation, especially when it comes to like sex and stuff, the amount of anxiety, the amount of stress that comes from, you know, kids having that question of, well, are you still a virgin at 14? That's weird. Like, no, it's not. That's completely normal, you know. And just, you know, with social media and everything, it's just got worse and worse.
Well, it's what you said. Everything's so accessible now. So information, people that are older that are influencing you. And I do think about that. I think, like, even when you look back 5 years, 10 years, 15, things have changed so drastically.
Massively.
And I think for parents today, you know, the way that we were as kids and things like that, you've got to take into consideration how different the world is when you're born as a 2-year-old on an iPad.
Yeah.
Like,
and I think as well, the hardest thing for our generation to excuse a lot of the crap and mistakes that we all made was our older generation had no experience of it. No advice, no experience of what to do when your friend comes at you with a porn video at school.
Yeah.
You know, they found porn in the woods. Like, it wasn't there in the palm of their hand at the lunch table. So
in the woods?
Yeah, you know, like they've...
Like bear porn?
Yeah.
what?
Just a hole in the ground. You know, and it was so, you know, the internet thing, especially
Yeah,
with you know, that kind of when the internet came in and then you could access it on your phones and things like that. But I couldn't go to my older siblings and say, what do I do when someone comes at me with a nuts magazine in the playground or whatever, because they didn't have to deal with that. They didn't do that.
Yeah.
So, and my parents, my dad's probably never heard of that magazine. So I hope. So
He definitely did. I hate to break it to you.
my
Someone
dad
needs
my
to tell
dad reads train magazines, and that's
It's
as
not-
far as I'm gonna think of that.
We can let you believe that.
You know, so it's one of those things where our generation, not only was it happening to us at such an early age because it was new and it was interesting, it was also happening with no prior experience. So it was all
Everybody's figuring it
everybody
out.
was on the first
Yeah.
playing field.
Yeah.
Everyone was having that first race and losing.
Yeah. Going back to the acting, you know, I think you said, I don't know if it was recording or not, but you said sneeze and you miss you in Game of Thrones.
Yes.
But
yeah.
like we said, people can have a long, drawn-out sneeze, and it's a fucking huge show. Like,
it is.
with a massive following.
Yeah.
Being a part of those kind of shows and the amount of views you get in and the die-hard fans, what was that experience like? And did you ever feel, and I know a common thing that people talk about these days, it's imposter syndrome, that feeling of, you know,
I shouldn't be
here.
Yeah.
Did you have any experiences like that?
God, no. Because you are surrounded by people who you've seen on the front of magazines and, you know, all of this. And like, I met Joe Jonas by accident because he was there seeing Sophie. And that was the only person that I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Whereas everybody else, they were just there doing a job. And I think that was what I absolutely loved about Game of Thrones, was these were the top of their time actors. You know, Kit was at his like peak of celebrity and all of this. Yet we were sat, you know, going, you know, him going, can I have 20 quid for a pack of ciggies? And I'd be like, you need money off me.
Brilliant.
You know,
Yeah.
and it was so normal. It was like, I'll pay you back. And it was like, I don't believe you for some reason. I mean, he did. He gave me 20 quid back. But, you know, it was so normal.
Right,
And it was so weird in the sense that everybody there was aware they were on the biggest show on the planet, but no one gave a shit.
Really?
It was...
They were there to do the best job.
They were there
It's
to
just
do a job.
Yeah.
And, you know, the best thing about acting is if you like sitting around doing nothing for hours on end, that is
You're
the job.
sorted. Yeah.
You're sorted.
Yeah.
And we were all, you ended up not doing these incredible, you know, I mean, especially in season 7, I wasn't part of these fight scenes. And, you know, I did a bit of that in season 8. But for season 7, you were sat around waiting to do this long scene over and over and over again. And you were just sat reading a book, playing a game, you know, trying to beat each other on Words with Friends, that kind of thing.
People, I bet it's, for a lot of people, they can't imagine that.
No, because
so
the show
normal.
is so epic.
Yeah,
Yet we're all
exactly.
sat in a green room taking the mick out of Kit because he's just bought a house with a moat. And you're like, do you need one?
Yeah.
You know, it's and learning all about these guys' wives and their husbands, and you know,
Just
normal
shit.
normal
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
You know, and the fact that they're thinking of getting a dog, great. What breed are you gonna get? You know, it's it's so normal. So even though it definitely felt like once in a lifetime job,
Yeah.
it was more of a case of there's just normal people showing up for
The
work.
reality of it is just, this is what we do.
Yeah.
It's normal. What about when it comes out though, and people are on Twitter, and have you ever had experiences, internet trolls, haters, and not just Game of Thrones,
not with
but-
Game of Thrones, but with Ackley Bridge.
Yeah, because you had a big part in that.
Yeah, so my character Sam in Ackley Bridge is this, especially in the first season she's introduced, is this hardcore, you know, butch, lesbian, out and proud, which was so different to me at the time, you know, and so different to any other part I'd played up until that point, that when that aired, and she did come from this racist background, you know, her family doing like an EDL march in the episode and
Yeah.
things like that. People were like, no, hate the character, don't want this character in the show, don't want to acknowledge actually how much of another context this is bringing to the show.
Yeah.
When we were in Halifax doing that EDL march, some of the locals tried to join in.
Wow.
Yeah, we had people with signs going, this is not a real march.
Oh my God.
You know, there's someone...
Did you speak to any of them?
The local... No. I don't want
No,
to
but
talk
I mean,
to the crazy guy with the little bag.
Character research, man.
No.
Get into this person's psychology.
No, but it was just that thing of this was such a real aspect of the show, whether you want to acknowledge that or not.
Yeah, it exists.
It exists to a point where people in the film, in
Wow.
the city we were filming in,
Yeah.
thought it was real.
Shit.
So yeah, it was pretty intense, kind of getting that backlash of your character's racist, and you kind of sat there going, but that's the point.
Yeah.
She's
exists.
been brought up in a family that think it's us versus them, and she is learning that there is no difference. We are all the same human race, and
There's a responsibility for shows like Ackley Bridge to tackle those subjects, right? Because it's like you were saying, actually, with like anxiety and stuff like that, if you just avoid it
yeah.
and,
Or
and pretend it's not
sugarcoat it.
there, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's get to the root.
Yeah,
and
I
the
think
reality.
the hardest thing with Ackley Bridge as well is the restrictions that it's placed upon being before watershed and things like that.
Yeah.
Is they can't use the language
Yeah.
that would make it as authentic and as real as possible. You know, the racial slurs, the swearing. You know, no kid in secondary school now doesn't drop the F-bomb on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
Yet that show you don't swear
can't.
once.
Yeah.
You know, and that's absolutely fine because they're under the restrictions that they're under. You don't want the F-bomb or some racial slur dropping before 9 o'clock on a weekday. But I think it has sugar-coated some of the extremities that show looks at, that it could have really, you know, if it had been pitched like Skins or like Misfits or pitched like Shameless.
Yeah.
It could have gone to a million new heights, because I don't yet think that you know, people are actually ready for that to be on TV yet as well, which is why when it is sugar coated and put on TV, they still have issues with it.
Yeah. So, what was some of the worst you got in terms of messages and hate and?
I think the hardest ones were definitely messages about you can't play a lesbian because you're not a lesbian, especially like now that I'm releasing content that is about my partner and me and baby.
Yeah.
You know, I am 6 months pregnant. So it's kind of like, well, you know, when I did that TikTok about my pregnancy reveal, I had to delete so many comments because it was where I thought you were lesbian. You know, you and actually using it as an insult, you know, saying you can't be pregnant, you're gay. Does your boyfriend know that you're gay? And things like this. And I'm sat there going, 1, lesbians can get pregnant.
Yeah.
2, none of your damn business.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and also 3, it's a character on a show. You know, and my sexuality is, I don't label it. It is what it is. If I see someone and I'm like, absolutely, it don't matter what genitals they've got or whatever. It doesn't matter. I'm attracted to who I'm attracted to. But the fact that I played a part on a show that was so hardcore lesbian and so, to such a point, a role model for a lot of kids to be out and proud, which
Yeah.
I'm very, very proud of myself.
Of course, yeah.
And I've had a lot of messages and comments saying thank you and things like that. You know, me and Amy, who plays my partner on the show, you know, thank you for being that out and proud.
Yeah.
It made a difference. Those were more overwhelming than actually the hate.
That's good, because I
Yeah.
think it's in human nature. It's like inherent for all of us. We focus on that one negative versus the 20 positive that you get.
Yeah.
Like, because I guess negative emotion generally is stronger, right?
Yeah.
But the fact that you had that ability to go, do you know what? I know what I'm doing is creating a lot of good in a lot of lives.
Yeah.
I can just delete the fucking bullshit.
Yeah, and I think as well, so many people, when there is that hate and that bullshit, is they go looking for it. You know, especially on stuff like Twitter. Twitter is the worst thing. I can't even, I don't have an account, won't go anywhere near it. But if I go on Twitter search and type in Ackley Bridge Sam, other than all the thirst tweets for Sam Retford, you know, it is majority of, oh my God, a whole episode about this character, what the muck, hate it, get her off my screen, ugly bitch, things like that. And actually, going back to the hate stuff, I didn't mind people hating the character when it came down to hate about how I looked and who I am as a person. So my physique, my appearance, things like that, that's when it was more painful. I didn't mind when people hated the character, but when they hated an appearance, which was actually the way I looked at that point. And I had to cut 12 inches of my hair off for that part. I looked so drastically different. My confidence was at an all-time low. And so to have someone go, oh, she looks, you know, like a boy, you're going, yeah, that's the point. But also I'm sat at home going, but I'm not a boy.
Yeah, this is how I have to look
when
the cameras stop.
Yeah, this is how I have to look all the time. And you're making fun of that. And you're, you know, putting hate towards that, despite the fact that I love my acrylic nails. I love my hair extensions. You know, I love all this stuff. But because I'm filming this show where I have to look a certain way, I'm then getting critiqued and penalised and hate comments because of how I looked for a job, you know. So that was a lot
harder. How did you deal with that?
I got hair extensions as soon as we finished the show. I got 800-piece micro ring hair extensions all over my head, cost over £1,000. Like, I just went, I want to look pretty again.
What about when you was going through it though, when you couldn't do that? How do you deal with that? Presumably at times daily messages.
Yeah. Bobble
and you've
hats.
still got to keep showing up, just a bobble hat.
Bobble hats and a shit ton of makeup. You know, I just didn't deal with it well at all. I was so unconfident and, you know, I just was not, I didn't look like me on the outside. I didn't feel like me on the inside. You know, I was going through this past relationship at the same time. So I just had there was no echo of me at all at that point through that whole show. I just didn't recognise any of it.
I think that must have been so hard because our identity is everything. And your actual physical appearance plays a massive part in how you feel about yourself, your identity, but you're literally taking on somebody else's appearance. Yeah. And then you've got to somehow still be you in between.
When the cameras stop rolling. I think it comes from the way to cope with it was to try and implement the authenticity of who I knew I was and know I am now, which is to be kind, to be generous. So when the cameras stop rolling, I know all the names of the cameramen. I know all the names of the gaffers. I say hi to everyone. I ask the runner if he wants a cup of tea, not if I want a cup of tea, if he wants a cup of tea. So it was very much not being overly nice to make up from the fact that I felt I looked aggressive and shit. But it was trying to go, who am I as a person? I'm a very nice person. Just trying to be nice.
What that is, in effect, is focusing on internal validation rather than external. So when the external includes a load of wankers throwing a load of hate at you, and you, because as performers, as actors, whether we like it or not, we do seek external validation because the whole industry's set up.
That's why we're in the job.
Correct.
Yeah.
But real fulfillment, I believe, is when you can work on that internal.
Yeah.
And what you were doing there, in essence, was it's almost like you versus you. Can you go to sleep every night and know that I'm a good person, my intentions are pure, and I'm doing good every day?
Yeah.
When you can do that at a high level, the external validation doesn't have to be as prevalent. And when it's negative, you can kind of just let it go. Yeah. And there's always a block and a delete online, right? So we're
block on TikTok's the best.
I bet you like that.
Yeah. As soon as there's a negative comment on one of my TikToks, that's it, blocked. I don't have to Facebook stalk. Not Facebook stalk. I don't have to profile stalk. None of that.
Yeah.
Just block
don't need
it.
that in
Instant.
my life.
Yeah. Don't need it. Because you do. You know, validation is an open door. It is, they're either going to walk through the door and validate you or they're not. And I think until people realize it is that yes or no, it's that thing of it's like that thing when your friends tell you if he wanted to be with you, he'd be with you.
Yeah.
And you're sat here going, yeah, but he's... No, it is as
just trying to
black
find you-
and as
yeah.
white as that.
Yeah.
And it's the same with validation. If you are looking for validation
Yeah.
from a parent, a teacher, a peer, a mentor, whatever it is, they're either going to validate you or they're not.
Yeah.
And if they're not giving you that validation, what are you still seeking for it for?
Yeah.
Try and give it to yourself.
100%. You're speaking my language, baby.
Yes.
I get it.
As simple as that.
It is. And I think the sooner people can actually not only understand that on an intellectual level, but an emotional level, because that's the thing that, it's all craving validation is emotional. And it is that what you said is you were desperate to be liked. You want to be liked. And I think something I always try and make clear to people is everybody wants to be liked. Like, given the option.
To be fair, though, I've met some people that could not give less of a shit. And they are the best people to me. Like, people who genuinely seek no validation from anything but their skier yogurt in the fridge. They are, like, iconic.
I agree. But I also think they've had to work at that. And I think that given the choice, if they could be like, they'd take it. The difference is they don't need it.
Yeah.
And that's a conscious decision. You've got to decide, I know who I am.
Yeah.
I know what I bring to the world. I'm comfortable in my own skin.
Yeah.
If you like me, great. If you don't, great.
Yeah.
Don't give a shit. But again, if the whole world could like you, that would be a nicer world to live in than having 50% or 80% think you're a dick.
See, I'd have to disagree with you.
She's
would.
sitting forward.
I would. No, I know. I'm
Move the camera. We're gonna have a
adjusting
fight.
the baby
We're having a
bump.
fight.
I'd have to disagree with you.
Yeah,
I
you
think,
win. You're pregnant. I'll
I
let you be
think-
right. She's right. She's right. I'm talking shit.
I think a world where everybody likes everybody
Yeah.
is a world where everybody is bland.
Beige, boring. Yeah.
I think there has to be some element of that person's a dick. Because one, it brings substance to your life.
Yeah.
It encourages you to have an opinion on other people. And it reminds us all that we're human. Because, yeah, if they're a murderer, they're a dick. But if they're a person who prioritizes self-care and time to their self, and their parents and their family members think they're a dick because they don't come to a toxic Christmas party.
Yeah.
Actually, you're creating an opinion on that person. Now, are you gonna be prejudiced towards the fact that they're taking self-care and time to themselves and remove themselves from a toxic environment?
Yeah.
Or are you gonna be the person who sits there and go, but family's family, and it's
Still
having
toxic.
still toxic.
Yeah.
Don't need that shit.
Yeah.
So it's that difference between having an opinion on someone that not only gives you substance but them substance that makes us all human. Therefore, if the world all liked each other, we'd all have no substance. There'd be nothing that's a part of us that makes people go, do you know what? I like that in someone and I hate that in someone.
Yeah.
Because there's some things that I love in people that my partner hates in people. When someone approaches me and they're like, hi, nice to meet you, and they're really bubbly and really positive, I love that.
Yeah.
My partner's like, what do you want?
Yeah.
Straight
Straight on the cynical, nobody's this happy.
No, but nobody is this happy
Yeah.
without a glass of wine. So yeah, it's definitely, liking people and not liking people and having opinions on people is what gives us all substance and makes us all layered.
You got me. She's right. She is right. I'm not just saying it. No, you are right. And I think the reason I say what I said is because so many people, it's like that victim/victor mindset that people think, oh, well, they're just born not giving a fuck and they're just born comfortable in their own skin. And then that replays the narrative that you'll always care and you'll always be at the mercy of validation and other people's opinions.
Yeah.
And I think the point I just want to make is you might still want to be liked, but you can make a decision to not need it. And it's doing things like you said, making sure your values are pure, your intentions are pure, and working on yourself.
I think as well it's also seeking validation from the right people.
100%.
You know,
yeah.
actually making that solid decision of, am I going to be liked by some random at username 3004
They haven't even got a
26?
picture.
Exactly,
Yeah.
that hasn't even got a proper at and a
Yeah, yeah.
and a profile picture on TikTok. Or am I going to seek validation from my dad? Am I going to seek validation from my partner, my life partner? Am I going to seek validation from my unborn child that I am going to provide the best life I can for them? You know, it's very much a conscious choice to choose whether to seek validation from a stranger or someone who knows and respects you.
Yeah.
That's the difference, because that stranger does not respect you.
Yeah.
And if you're trying to seek validation from them, you're never going to get it. And if you do, it's not going to be the right kind of validation.
Yeah. Brilliant. So we were just talking before we started that literally this week, the last 12 months to this day kind of thing has been one of the biggest roller coasters.
Yeah.
Obviously, we don't have to go into too much depth if you don't want to.
Oh no, I'm fine talking about Dead Mum Club. It's fine.
Oh God, is that what we call it? Shit. That's how I break the ice. Obviously, a lot of things happened in the last year. Obviously, the passing of your mum.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that journey?
Yeah.
And what you've been through?
I love that you call it a journey, because that is exactly what it is. For me, it wasn't a loss. It wasn't a depressive episode. It was a journey with my mum. So 12 months ago, pretty much to this week, my mum was going through severe cancer treatment, and she had 4 brain tumours. So it was very much a case of, my mum got a prognosis of 3 to 12 months. We got 9 weeks. And in those 9 weeks, me and my mum sat together and we talked about life, the universe, and everything. We talked about choices she'd made. We talked about her successes, her downfalls. You know, we talked about what she wished she'd done, but then to a point where she goes, but I didn't do it, and that's okay. You know, and having those 9 weeks of hospices and hospitals, and mum just going, no, do you know what, I want to be home, and I want to be home when I go. And she was, and we were with her. And I just remember one thing that she said, which was, all is well with my soul. And she was ready to go. So when my mum finally passed away, for me, I'd grieved my mum going with her. So
It's
when
beautiful,
she actually died,
Yeah.
I was like, whew, end of that chapter. What are we doing next? Rest of my family
peace.
were like, oh, mum's gone. And I was like, oh, shit, yeah. Whoops. You know, and it was so strange for me to actually be 9 weeks behind everybody else or ahead of everybody else, because I'd actually just grieved mum with mum, you know. And I was very, very lucky to be in that position because we were in the peak of COVID restrictions and everything like that. You know, my sisters and my brother and to some aspect my mum's friends and things like that couldn't be with my mum at certain points, whereas because I was getting COVID tested non-stop and all of this, I was able to be with her and have these conversations. But it completely changed my experience of death. It completely changed my mindset of life, because having watched someone that I care so deeply about basically welcome it with open arms and be ready to go to literally her last breath made me go, oh, death ain't that bad. And actually, worst case scenario for me in this world is death for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And if in death, I'm loved on that side and I'm loved on this side. So if it happens, it happens.
Where do you think she had that strength to be at peace, and where do you think that peace with death came from for her?
I think the majority of it came from her creativity, because my mum spent so much of this life, this version of life, being creative and having a creative outlook and doing literally everything under the sun that had some kind of creative platform, that mum saw death as just something creative. She was writing a journal, she was drawing, she was, drawing things she could see when she was having these lucid moments of feeling like she wasn't. I do remember once she was sat there and she had this, very ethereal sunshine on her. She sat in this brass 4-poster bed, and my mum just went, "I'm not going through the door, I'm just having a look." And I just went, "Okay." And what can you see? And my mum just went, "It's so much bigger than any of us think. It's so much more than any of us think." And I was like, right, whatever that means. And only now do I realise what she meant was death is so much bigger than any of us realise. It's literally one of the main things we all have in common is all of us at some point are going to die.
Yep.
And the fact that nobody barely talks about it. When people ask me about my mum and I call it Dead Mum Club or, whatever, there is some kind of prejudice and expectation to be sad about it, to be depressed about it, to be mournful about it. And don't get me wrong, I miss my mum like crazy and I grieve her pretty much every day.
Yeah.
But at no point was that very traumatic journey something sad. My mum went through horrendous treatment and there were certain moments for both of us that were very traumatic. But at the end of it, it was a journey that I gained so much from and she gained so much from, that she just had this mindset that if this is it, we're going to go out with a bang and we're going to go out dancing. And she did.
And I think what you're saying, it's literally so beautiful to hear, because it just made me think if we can all start to live like that now and see it as a journey. We don't know when death comes.
I don't think it's a coincidence that as soon as my mum passed away and my life, my version of life, my reality just completely flipped. And I had this sudden realization that we can go at any moment. Nothing is certain. All of these kind of learnings and teachings that I had from her through this experience, that within the next 9 months, I find my life partner, buy a house, having a baby, all of this, have my dream job with an actress that me and my mum have literally wanted to work with for so long.
Yeah.
That all happens 9 months after my mum passes away, because my mindset just completely changed. It went from, woe is me, I'm in a depressive relationship, I don't want to be here, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm sat in my car on the M6 saying, I could crash it. Easy. And then to lose my mum and then go, right, now what? But not in a sense of, oh God, now what? I've got to keep living without her. It's more of a case of, how do we make mum proud? Yeah. How do we carry on and make life as beautiful as she made it?
It's like a deeper purpose now. It's not just for you, it's for her.
Yeah. And, the ironic thing is through actually losing my mum, I then become a mum. And I now have no experience in any of this, but I'm willing to learn, and I'm willing to experience life with somebody else who is literally growing inside me, which in itself is just an alien concept. But going from having someone who literally birthed me to birthing my own human is very very spiritual for me, very magical.
What a conversation. Like, just
it is what it is.
it is what it is. Mic drop. Everyone fuck off. No, I'm a little bit gutted because we spoke beforehand that you've got a really dirty sense of humour.
Yeah.
And like, there's no topics off limits.
Yeah.
I think we definitely should have spoke about fannies and stuff like that, but we didn't get there.
Oh God.
That could be a follow-up one day, right?
I mean, if you want part 2, what they didn't talk about, but
It's all right. Jimmy actually recorded it before. We're good. We'll release that one day.
No, it is. It's just having no filter is very liberating, I think.
Have you always had that sense of humour, that no filter approach, or is that something you've recognised over time to let yourself be?
No, I was always the one in the friendship group who would be like, have you ever been halfway through a poo and thought, this is what anal feels like? And my friends are just sat there eating chow mein going, You say again. You know, I've always
While
been.
they're eating as well.
Yeah, Chinese nights with a bottle of Malibu. You can't go wrong. But I was always that friend that just said the wrong thing or the wrong thing. You know,
Yeah.
said the thing 90% of us everyone's thought.
Yeah.
I'm just happened to be the idiot that said it. You know. You know, but it was very liberating for me to be that friend that when, you know, sat in the sixth form lounge going, you know, the boys all talking about wanking and things like that, to be that friend that goes, well, girls wank too. And all my girlfriends being like, we don't talk about that. And I'm just like, why? Why not? Why do they get one conversation and we don't? You know,
I want the wanking conversation.
Yeah, I do because it's more liberating as you know, as a woman, as a friend, to go, we have no barriers, we have no restrictions, and it makes you feel less lonely because
it's a human experience that
it's
we
a
all have in
human
common.
experience we all have in common, you know, and to be that friend that just said the wrong thing but the right thing because it opened up the conversation and made my friends that I knew were struggling with loneliness or struggling with feeling shameful or whatever to talk about it. You know, even if it's not in front of all the guys and all the rest of the friendship group, to be sat on, you know, the B36 bus going, do you wank too? And be like, yes, I do. You know, and she's like, okay, have you ever done this and it's gone wrong? And you're like, no, but let's talk about that. You know, so I've always had that filter, but it kind of turned more sexual as soon as I kind of hit 16, 17, 18.
So since we're doing it, can we explain a cum run?
What's a cum run? Oh God! Jimmy, this can't
level,
go in the edit. My dad will never forgive me. So
it's all right. He's reading his train magazines. He don't know what nuts is. We're good. It's fine.
So a cum run is that moment if you're not using protection, as in the condom variety, where y'all have finished the funny business and you've got about 10-15 seconds to get from the bed or wherever, kitchen counter, sofa, to the toilet.
Got you.
Yeah.
And you said this to someone you just met who was running funny.
Yeah, she was running funny. I was like, what you come running for? Because it was that kind of knees together.
Yeah, but you just met her.
You know, you're not using the cupped hand. You just got knees together and praying gravity's on your side and just legging it.
And you say this literally to a stranger.
Yeah. Oh, I've said worse to strangers. I really have. But it's, yeah.
I feel like I can't press on that because I don't know how much worse it could get.
It gets pretty bad. There was one celebrity I'd met. I'm really bad around celebrities to the point where I forget that even if I don't have that expectation that they are someone, they might have that expectation that they're someone. And I won't obviously name drop, but I was sat with this. No, I was sat with this celebrity and they're flicking through a magazine and they kind of made a derogatory snort, a very clearly photoshopped photo of a fellow actor who'd got no top on and were looking quite sexual. Yeah. And they were like, and I just went, oh, come on. Like, I've seen more photoshopped photos of you. Like, come on. You can't say shit like, you know, you can't have an opinion on them when you get photoshopped more than most. And it was one of those moments where it was like, maybe shouldn't have said that, but they did find it funny, and they were like, "Yeah, good point." But yeah, there's been several.
You managed to humanize one of those celebrities.
Yeah,
I think that's an achievement.
Yeah, could have gone wrong though. Could have really gone wrong. But yeah,
that's the risk you take, though. Being authentically you.
Yeah, it's a. You either be authentically you, or you get judged anyway, being someone you're not. Definitely.
What a fantastic way to end. I just want to say, honestly, thank you, because
thank you.
You are authentically you, and to bring that on this show, I think. Well, I don't think, I know will inspire other people to just be that little catalyst to just own who you are. If you want to talk about wanking, like,
do it.
Talk about wanking.
The worst thing that could ever happen is someone says no to you. Like, I've always found this aspect, and I was telling my friend about this the other day, that if you wait for somebody else to say no first, you are going to get a hell of a lot further than if you say no to yourself. Because if you sit there and go, oh, I can't really talk about that in this situation, then 90% of the time you're not going to end up having the conversations that are so memorable and so change your life. Whereas
100%.
if you just don't say it all, you're never going to have those experiences. You're never going to have that conversation. Whereas if you just throw that fish out there, and then if someone goes, oh, this is actually a really funny story, you know, I mean, I was at a very formal dinner event and someone was talking about incidences that they'd had at house parties, of which I have many. But one of my favourite ones was my friend had gone to the top floor of this condo flat house thing in London, in Vauxhall. And this house literally has an Olivier Award in the study.
Wow.
Right? And they'd gone to the top floor of this house and done a massive shit. And it didn't flush. And they were like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I've just done a massive shit in this very established person's house. Panicked, grabbed the cath kits and shower cap.
Yeah.
Grabbed the shit.
I cannot believe it.
Threw it out the skylight.
No way.
Threw it out the fucking skylight. Washed the shower cap, put it back down to the party. The shit ended up on the pavement outside because she'd actually thrown it over the roof. Yeah. But that's beside the point.
Well, of course it did.
But we were at this formal dinner event and someone was talking about, you know, events at house parties. And I went, oh, funny story. You know, there's shit flying out of a skylight. And we ended up like pissing ourselves laughing, sharing poo stories. Yeah. But if I'd have gone, oh, I can't really talk about that because they're talking about walking into a couple in a bedroom and all that. You know, I can't really go, oh, my friend did this shit. Yeah. You know, you then end up having...
You rob yourself of that opportunity.
You rob yourself of that experience. You rob yourself of that joy. And you rob yourself of that authenticity of being yourself and going, do you know what? I'm going to tell poo stories at a dinner table because it's fucking funny. And it should be.
Well, I'm ready. Bring on the next dinner party. Poo stories ready. I've got loads. Before we finish, if people want to check you out online, where's the best place to see you? If they want to give you... If they want to be a troll on your TikTok, how can they do it so they can get blocked by you?
I'm very boring, very accessible. So all my social media is Megan Parkinson blank. So it's Megan Parkinson Insta, Megan Parkinson TikTok, and that's how you can find me. And I'm also on Cameo if anyone wants to direct message or wants any videos for, you know, fans or anything like that.
Love it. Before we finish, the final question that I ask all my guests. Megan, what is your definition of success?
Big question. I think, firstly, you have to make sure that success and happiness are two very different things. So I think my definition of success is large achievements, but my definition of happiness is small achievements. So your happiness comes from being able to get out of bed, get in the shower even when you don't feel like having one, having the right breakfast, talking to people, reaching out to friends, whereas success comes from getting the job, doing the interview, applying for the job. It's the bigger achievements where your successful life comes from, but it's the little achievements that your happiness comes from.
Literally, please, can you drop that mic? There's nothing else that I can say. Wow. Are you happy? Oh my God. Well, I literally don't feel like I want to say anything else because I think Megan ended that podcast perfectly and literally needed to do a mic drop. But I do need to tell you that if you found this valuable, Megan also agreed to record an exclusive members only additional episode. Now, this was great. But we really found our flow as we then went into the exclusive members only interview. And I really, really feel there's so much more value to be gained as well. So remember, in order to become a member, all you've got to do is head over to richinsuccess.com right now. Click the link, or the link is in the show notes to this episode. It will take you seconds to become a member. You can join us for just £19 for a trial month. That will give you access to absolutely all the members' material, including the exclusive chat with Megan. Here is a little preview of what we discussed.
I think as well, it's also, you know, key to remember that if you don't get that job, if you don't get you know, that callback, if you don't get that follow-up interview or whatever, it is okay to grieve it.
Yeah.
You know, so many people are going, oh, I didn't get it, but I'm going to move on. I'm going to, you know, have a positive outlook, and, you know, it was their problem, not a me problem, all of this. It's like, no, actually, it is okay to feel shit.
Yeah. So there you go. Just to remind you that if you want to listen to that interview in full, pick up your membership from richinsuccess.com for just £19 for a trial month, or click the link below. As always, thank you so much for listening to the Rich in Success podcast. It will mean the world to me if you could do me a favour, share this episode. If you could maybe put something on your Instagram stories, telling people you've listened, telling people why you think they will enjoy listening to this episode too. And hopefully I'll see you again on next week's episode as the journey of self-discovery and personal growth continues. See you then.